the headline story, as we all continue to try to place the head coach, vacancies in the four centers we talked about yesterday, Doug, and more names popping up on radars. And today, for whatever reason, it seems as if the name Bill Peters is at the front of everybody's mind for some reason, where many would have considered him at this time last week a long shot for a head coaching position.
Peters is in the final rankings in Florida, and we believe that our buddy Gerard Gallant is in there along with.
I was told that as well.
Bilesma. The feeling is Bilesma may be too expensive. Yeah. Peters also interviewed yesterday in Carolina, and today Carolina interviews Ulf Samuelsson for the head coaching job there. The feeling is Samuelsson probably has the inside track there. There's a great relationship, obviously, with Ron Francis. They're good friends. I'm not saying that that's the only reason why he gets the job. I think Samuelsson has paid his dues. His resume is pretty good, including head coaching in Europe recently before coming back as an associate coach in New York. But the feeling is Peters is impressing a lot of people, Mac.
Yeah, I think that it's funny. I talked to Kenny Holland last week, and he told me that Peters he'd been asked by some teams for permission to talk to him. One of them being the Pittsburgh Penguins. I know for a fact that Pittsburgh are hiring somebody. I think they've already made their mind up, and it's somebody who has had experience in the league last year. Someone who had experience in the league last year, which would indicate to me that's an assistant coach, and that would knock Crawford and Wilson and those guys out of the box there. So, you know what? I think Peters has a chance. I was thinking maybe, is it Peters? Is it Jacques Martin, who was an assistant there?
Yep.
Ulf Samuelsson, I think I heard a month ago he was going to probably get the job in Carolina, so it won't surprise me that he'll end up getting that.
So I got a phone call this morning saying our good buddy Doug MacLean was holding out on us last week.
Holding out on us in what way?
On coming back to Sportsnet?
Inside information.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I never do that. I always give you all my tips.
You sitting on your hat, Doug?
You interviewed in Pittsburgh. How do you respond to that? That's all I needed to know.
The pause.
The pause and an Not you're wrong.
I'm going to tell you.
Bad source, bad scoop. I got an
All I can tell you and guarantee you that I'm certainly not going to say I was a finalist for the job.
So it is true. You interviewed for the head coaching job in Pittsburgh.
All I'm going to say is
you pulling a Fergie on us right now?
I'm not going to say that I was a finalist.
Are you?
That's all I will say.
Are you not confirming or denying?
I'm not doing either. It's confidential information.
Having a sip of water, taking a pause, texting his agent.
Why don't you self-promote? Everybody else does it.
Why would I have to do that when I have such a great situation here?
So can you tell us hypothetically if you did interview in Pittsburgh, how did it go? And how would you change the Pittsburgh Penguins into winning the Stanley Cup?
Oh, I had 5 pages written on that. So, yeah, it was a great experience. It sort of caught me off guard, to be quite honest. And I spent quite a bit of an afternoon with Jim Rutherford in New York. So it was an interesting. It was kind of fun to go through the process, but it was out of the blue and something I hadn't really thought about. But you know, there's not a lot of guys out there that have head coaching experience. So
yeah.
You know, and if you would have told us,
I'm glad. You know, Jimmy, he's a good friend and he's a terrific guy. So. You know, I actually had a great conversation with him last night.
Had you told us that, you would have taken some heat off of Pierre Maguire.
That's why nobody heard a word about it. And I can confirm I wasn't a finalist.
What was? I guess we're all on the table about this. What was the interview like?
You know, it was.
What kind of questions would Rutherford be interested in? Like, what type of mining would he have been doing on your hockey brain?
Well, obviously, you know, just philosophy. There was some system talk. There was philosophy talk. There was star power talk.
Sydney talk.
Star power talk.
Malkin talk.
As to philosophy of dealing with stars. And, it was quite interesting.
Which you had me in Washington, so you've got a tremendous amount of experience there.
I used you as an example, as a matter of fact, when they were comparing. I compared you more to Malkin than Crosby because you were taller.
You've had experience working with two superstars down the middle before in Detroit. So how much overlap would you see with Yzerman, Fedorov versus Crosby, Malkin?
You know what? I really did get into that. I sort of used that as a comparable 5 years spent with Stevie Y and Fedorov in Detroit as compared to Malkin and Crosby scenario. And it was really interesting how Scotty Bowman at the end changed Stevie Y from a guy that was a superstar scoring wise,
160 points,
to a guy that dropped down to 85 points, but one Stanley.
That's it, one cups.
But one cups. And it was like the garage was full of individual awards. Let's take it to another level to win Stanley Cups. And I think that's where Sid's career is right now. He's already won a cup, but it's like, okay, you've done everything you can individually, and Malkin as well. How do you transfer that to winning Stanley Cups? And that's the challenge that Jimmy and the management team and the new coaching staff in Pittsburgh have. How do you transfer that group to winning Stanley Cups? And that was an intriguing part of the conversation.
Did you get a sense that they are in the here and now? We assume Jimmy's going to be there a year, maybe 2 years tops.
Probably longer.
Probably longer?
I would think 3 years at minimum.
Is there a sense that the urgency to win now?
Yeah, I think that the situation is they would like to retool and go for it. Sure. I think the challenge is when you look at it with $15 million in salary cap space. And that's without Niskanen signed, without Sutter signed, without Orpik signed. There's some Jokinen. There's some challenge. They're at $55 million. When I just looked at it the other day, $55 million with 14 players signed. So there's some cap issues there,
and like 5 big ones, right?
Yeah. Well, you got
led by Crosby and Malkin,
and then you got
Neil
at 7,250 and Fleury. So a real good. I mean, Pittsburgh is a really good group. You got Tommy Fitzgerald. I don't know Botterill, but he's a quality guy. I mean, he's supposed to be a quality guy.
Billy Guerin.
I mean, they got some real good people. And Jimmy just brought in Jason Kermanis. So I think that Jimmy will go. It looks like he'll probably go with a young coach. They like they like John Hines, who's their coach in Worcester. So they've got the makings of a real good organization there.
So let me ask you this. You mentioned that it caught you by surprise, that you weren't expecting Jim Rutherford to reach out and say, hey, Doug, can I have an afternoon with you to talk about the head coaching position? At what point, even though you're surprised and you're having the conversation with Jim, so you leave the room and you go back to your hotel, at what point do you say to yourself, that caught me by surprise, but now I really want this?
Yeah, I was genuinely excited about it. You never think about it prior to it, but it enters your mind once in a while, especially when you see some guys that haven't coached for a while come back and coach as veteran guys. But then you get real excited about it, and then you got to keep it in perspective because it was a long shot. I knew that, but it was a really exciting, fun process to go through, to be quite honest.
You should have tweeted it, and then you can legitimately have called yourself an NHL insider.
Yeah, no, because it was sort of an agreement with Jimmy and I that it wouldn't during the process it wouldn't get out.
Sorry,
and he actually is.
So blame
I'm a little late. I'm a little late.
Mention your
I'm
name.
a little late, but at least I got it.
What was funny was they were all. But what was funny is they were really ticked off at me because I told them that we were supposed to tape, and I said, guys, I can't tape this afternoon. I need 3 hours. I cannot tape this afternoon. Sorry, so I had to tell a little fib that I was doing contract talks with Sportsnet and with my league pension.
So you remember that day then, Nick?
You got sucked in, didn't you? So you're not as good an insider as you think you are.
With all that tampering you did in Columbus, what's a little fib?
Exactly.
Well, there you go. So you go. Nick Kypreos breaks
So-
the news about Doug MacLean, who did indeed interview for the head coaching position of the Pittsburgh Penguins.